Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. I had my team. I'm like, hey, when it's hot, please tell me, because before it started, they could hear me. They could hear everyone talking. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah. We just need that.
Okay, you're all right.
You did.
Venmo you or just some cash? Don't worry about it. David support. Play the bag. You're going to wait. Pretty good. Where's your old boss? I'm starting to read it. Yeah. Thanks for the tip. What's the stash? I like that. This goes to prove that.
This is blue, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Is that just one? Okay. All right, thanks.
I just want to know if you'd ever gone.
We'll now resume the Board of County Commissioners meeting for 1:30. And just for the board to know, Commissioner Yeager called up, her son is not feeling well, and she's going to be staying home taking care of him. She can come back in later if someone can watch, whatever, but I told her to take care of her family, and she's going to do that, so she may or may not even call in, we'll see. Okay, first ordinance is P34.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
From your morning agenda, you have R32, which is a workshop on mobility fees that you have to do before you take up the ordinance, and so you might want to start your afternoon with that.
Okay, let's move to R32.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. Good afternoon.
I didn't explain that to Nick, but
Yeah. we're all good.
on the fly.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. Nick Uren, County Engineer. We're going to be talking about mobility fees, and we're only going to be talking about mobility fees this afternoon. As context, the workshop item is an item that is mandated by state law anytime that a local government is attempting to or endeavoring to increase their mobility fees above statutory limits. This is the second extraordinary workshop devoted to the proposed mobility fee rate increases. And I'm going to walk through the agenda with you as well as the content for the workshop. And then we can touch on the proposed ordinance that has the actual fee tables in it and the language, the code language changes for the Land Development Code. So the agenda is very simple. We're going to cover the statutory limitations on the fee increases. We're going to cover the 4 extraordinary circumstances that are present in Pasco County justifying increases that exceed those statutory limits. And then we're going to turn it back to you and members of the public for any discussion. So statutory limitations, we are permitted to propose fee increases based upon a plan to impose, collect, and use those fees. We are allowed to increase fees if they are less than 25% in 2 annual increments. If you increase by between 25 and 50%, you need to do it over 4 annual increments. Some of the proposed increases in our ordinance presented to you this afternoon are increasing of between 25 and 50%, but in 2 annual increments. So that triggers the requirement for the extraordinary circumstances workshop. And any increases that go above 50% of your current fee also trigger the obligation for the extraordinary circumstances workshop. And we are proposing some fee increases above that 50% threshold. Statute also says you can't increase it any more often than every 4 years. It has been more than 4 years since we've increased our fees, so we're in compliance with that criteria. The 4 tests for a local government to exceed the statutory limits are perform a recent study, hold those 2 extraordinary circumstance workshops, make sure that your fee increase is approved by unanimous vote. And that will be very important. We'll come back to that point once more later this afternoon. And last, make sure your fee increases are implemented in at least 2 equal annual installments. And we are proposing to do that in compliance with the law. So 4 extraordinary circumstances. The first one, we are growing faster than our last fee update anticipated. Last fee update talked about a population growth of 230,000 people. We are now projecting 330,000 people to grow into that 7-figure number. We're looking at a potential of 1 million people, and I've given you an example. This is the Sun Lake Boulevard corridor within Angeline. The first aerial photo is from 2020. And when we click forward to 2026, you see all those homes that have been now platted and are coming out of the ground like mushrooms. They're growing rapidly in Pasco County, and it's our job to ensure that our mobility fees are adequate to provide the roadway infrastructure, the transportation network needed to support that rapid growth. Our second extraordinary circumstance is higher trip generation. There is an Institute of Transportation Engineers manual that gets published periodically that looks at how many trips different types of land uses make on a regular basis. That institute recently published an update and showed that several of our common land uses generate more traffic than we thought they would, than they previously were. And so as we get more data, we are responsible to adapt to that new data set, and we're saying people are making more trips. Our third extraordinary circumstance is that infrastructure costs more than we had anticipated in our 2021 study. We are looking at 31% increases in capital costs for the same materials that we were planning to use in 2021. That means that we need more money to build the same road network.
Why you have put ours up there? Why don't you put Ridge Road up there instead of ours?
Well, I wanted to show, and there's meaningful,
A field of Logan grass, is that what you're showing?
this is actually the overpass intersection with Old Pasco Road. And what I'm intending to show is this was also a 2020 photograph before we had begun construction. But in order to take that into the 4-lane road that it is intended to be, and this is a more current photograph of that same intersection where we're going to widen it out to a 4-lane median divided road, we need that additional revenue. And Commissioner, your point is well taken. We're spending a lot of money at Ridge Road. We're also spending a lot of money widening Wesley Chapel Boulevard right now. And those projects we got in on previous fee rates because those bids were taken a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. The projects that we're looking at now are coming in at a higher number. Okay, and then number 4, our fourth extraordinary circumstance is a radical decline in other revenues. In particular, I want to emphasize the decline in state and federal revenues predicted to be available for our projects in Pasco County. In 2021, state and federal gas taxes and documentary stamps and vehicle registration fees combined to cover 38% of our infrastructure needs. In this update, they are only covering 11% of the needs. All of that combines to say, in an extraordinary summary, that more people are coming to Pasco, they're going to travel more, it's going to cost more to build the facilities to support them, and we have less other revenue to pay for those costs. So those are our 4 extraordinary circumstances that we're presenting to you as part of this workshop. Pursuant to state law, it is a workshop that is intended to allow for public comment. That's atypical to workshops that you would normally conduct. Normally you don't accept public comment, But presuming the statutory intent or legislative intent of that segment of the law, we are suggesting that you accept public comment and then conduct any board discussion as you see fit. And I do have a separate presentation for the first reading of the ordinance, but I'm intending to defer that until after public comment on this item and board discussion, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any questions for Nick?
No.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. We're going to allow the public to comment. Would anyone like to, in the audience, like to come forward to speak to this item? Okay. I'm assuming there's no one
Was this
online.
advertised? Chairman,
Is that?
was this advertised?
This was advertised as a public workshop with the opportunity to comment on these extraordinary circumstances.
So we,
Contact.
no one come in.
Is there anyone online that wanted to speak to this item?
There's no one online for this item.
Okay. Is this just presentation only? We can't vote on the workshop anyway.
That's correct.
Mr. County Attorney, should we go to the next item to follow up with it?
You might as well go to 36
Okay.
and do the first hearing on the ordinance.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I can do publication.
please.
Item P36 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 4th, 2026.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to run through a brief presentation summarizing the changes that are proposed to the ordinance, including those extraordinary circumstance fee increases that we just discussed. Am I ready to go? Okay, so this is an ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners. Can I skip that one? Okay. All right, let me give you the overview. The overview is that mobility fees pay for only new transportation facilities. They pay for facilities that are needed to accommodate growth and development, not existing demands. The revenue generated by mobility fees, this is all a reminder to the board, but the revenue generated by the mobility fees is also supplemented by gas taxes. In Pasco County, we're fortunate to have a penny sales tax, a portion of which goes to transportation capital projects. And we also allocate a portion of property tax revenue to transportation capital projects through the tax increment fund. As I mentioned earlier, mobility fees can be updated no more often than every 4 years. And I want to emphasize again that the proposed increases in this ordinance will require a unanimous vote of the commission to implement them. We want to remind you that our projected need for transportation facilities is nearly $7 billion because we will add 330,000 new residents, and we will require an additional 950 lane miles to support the demand for those 330,000 new residents. Our projected revenues, even with the current rates, are short of that need by around, with the current rates that are not adjusted by this proposed increase, we'll be short of that, funding that need by about $2.9 billion. And that's why we came to you in November, we presented increases, we got your feedback at a workshop, and we are now showing you the proposed fee rates for mobility fees for various land uses in this ordinance, consistent with the following slides in the November workshop. So, highlights from the workshop. You told us, by all means, keep the 100% subsidy or discount for hotel, office, and industrial uses. This is available to us as a Pasco County distinctive. We can use it for economic development purposes to attract these major employers to our area and entice them to locate their businesses here. You told us to retain the discount for single-family and accessory dwelling units on 5-acre or more lots, rural lots. You directed us to increase the locally owned small business discount, which we have done. We've increased it by 25%. You've directed us to create a new discount for long-term Pasco residents who are constructing new homes as owner builders, and the Land Development Code allows for that. It's a new discount. We are also proposing to update the map showing the benefit districts where the fees can be spent once they've been collected. We're proposing as part of this amendment to simplify the surcharge tables for our 2 special districts, the Connected City and Villages of Pasadena Hills. And lastly, we're trying to simplify the language as much as possible without altering the regulatory substance of it to make it a little more readable and user-friendly to the people it's regulating.
Question, Chair.
Mr. Wayman.
Nick, go back, please.
Indeed.
So the discount for the, remind me how we got to the 5-acre lots. We just approved a number of essentially rural lots Commissioner Oakley talks about it, there are 2.5 acres, they're minor rural subdivisions. Should that pertain more to what's considered a minor rural subdivision instead of at the 5-acre limit? How do we get to the 5-acre or more?
So I'm
We
gonna
want to
defer to our
encourage minor rural
chief assistant county attorney,
subdivisions,
because
right?
the
So if
5
we
acre,
want to encourage minor rural
I-
subdivisions.
I understand your
I
question.
think this needs to complement that ambition.
I want to acknowledge this is an existing code provision.
It
And I
actually,
can ask Mr. Goldstein to
it wasn't
give the
really
history.
based on the minor rural subdivisions. It's actually, it was something that's in the existing mobility fee, and it originated, I think, in 2014, and it occurred because there was some concern that the rural fees were higher than the suburban fees, and we didn't want to penalize somebody who was building in the rural area, and they were building consistent with our rural vision. And so, in our rural vision, we basically said, well, if somebody's building on a lot that's 5 acres or greater, that's consistent with our rural vision. And so didn't want to penalize somebody for building consistent with that rural vision. So we said they should be able to pay the same fees as if they were in the suburban area. So we had to come up with a lot size that would be consistent with that rural vision. That's how we came up with the 5-acre lots. Not saying we couldn't come up with a smaller lot size, but that was what we came up with at the time as the lot size that was consistent with a rural vision.
Well, the northeast rural is comprised of multiple lot sizes for the rural vision in East Pasco. So, and it is true, and I agree with you, that if you want to live a more rural life, you're being penalized by paying more for
Well, it
less
costs more.
services.
It costs more to
You're
deliver
missing
those
my
services.
point.
Hang on, he's trying to say his floor.
The people who live in the urban areas require 10 times as much service than the folks who want to live more of a rural life. Therefore, I think it should be opposite, and they should pay more, because there's a higher demand on everything. But, whatever, that's a different conversation for a different day. But if we want to encourage the minor rural subdivision life and rural living, land's a luxury item today. It wasn't back in 2004. What'd you say, 14? There's a whole lot more land that was undeveloped then than it is today. And so if we want to encourage the more rural lifestyle, I think number 2 needs to align with today's market. Land's a luxury item today, and it's highly expensive. And so for someone to buy an acre or 2 acres of land, that's a pile of money. They're gonna pay the highest impact fees, that's a pile of money. They're gonna build a custom, semi-custom home, and then they're sitting on taxable value of probably $1 million plus on the low end in that range in the northeast rural end based on real estate markets. So because of that, and if we want to encourage that, I think this 5 acres needs to come down and morally align with the lot sizes that are allowed throughout the definition of what northeast rural is, but I'll digress to Commissioner Oakley on that. That way we try to
Yeah, I
encourage
mean,
that type of living.
It's up to the board. I mean, really, this goes to what lot sizes do you want to encourage in the northeast rural area? Because that was the goal of this, is we're reducing the rate for these lot sizes in the rural areas, so we're trying to encourage this type of lot in the rural areas, which we're basically doing. So we basically were trying to send a message that we were trying to encourage 5-acre lots and higher in the rural area. That was the goal of this. If the board wants to set it at 2.5 acres and that's what we want to encourage in the rural area, that's up to the board. It's really trying to set a message of what lot sizes you want to encourage in the rural area.
I don't necessarily think it's an encouraging of a lot size, more or less, and more of encouraging of the lifestyle, which is what minor rural living is.
Well, lot sizes or lifestyle, if you reduce the fee for this size lot, you are effectively sending a message that you're encouraging that lot size.
Well, yeah, we
Or
heard
lot
today
size.
that you want executive housing on acre, Chair brought it up, acre or more lots, but if we set 2.5 acres, look at, this is just being flexible to the way the market shifted, right? It's incredibly expensive to live here in Pasco County. So if you want to encourage and not have people come in and subdividing their property, they're gonna try to come and get more than 5 acres. We just saw it a couple months ago. people are gonna continually push and push and push to get as much density on their lot sizes as possible. So, you know, they may not do that if we're a little more flexible on the 5-acre lot size.
Just send her an email.
And it's down to the 2.5-acre lot size. It's my opinion, but
Commissioner Marion?
Good.
I got my hand up.
Mr. Stark, I know, I'm gonna go to you. Let's
Okay,
let
I
me
didn't know
finish.
you,
I let you
tell if
finish.
you saw me.
Just want to finish, I got you.
we can't
Okay,
miss you,
Commissioner Stark.
Commissioner Stark.
I'm not saying I'm against a 2.5-acre lot, but you just have to understand the facts of the cost of suburban versus rural infrastructure. I sent Gina an email, if you could put that up, and I just did AI, and I said, which costs less to deliver services, rural, and it came out lads, but it's supposed to be lands, but they knew what I was talking about, or suburban. And so you'll see there that rural costs more. But just thinking on the roadside, think of how much it's gonna cost to pave Bayhead versus the amount of people living on Bayhead versus a road here. You know, how many taxpayers we have on, I don't know, pick a road, Darlington or whatever, versus Bayhead. It's all, we're subsidizing, you know, the cost per capita are much higher in the rural area to deliver services. We've had a couple meetings here, I don't know if it was Gladding Jackson or who, that taught us all about these things. And those are some of the things you learn when you go to ULI conference or the CNU conference about these kind of numbers. And I don't know where Terry is, but
Right behind Nick.
if you wanna, you're smarter on this than I am, I just know what I've learned. I'm not saying I'm against a 2.5-acre, but I don't know if I wanna subsidize it even more than we are already, but do you wanna espouse on what I'm trying to say?
Sure. Nectarios Pitos, Planning Development Economic Growth. What I think Commissioner Starkey is referring to is the fact that when you have more people, more density, in other words, you have more ability to spread the cost of the
Yeah.
infrastructure.
I understand it all. I get all that. I disagree with that paradigm. I think it's hogwash, and I think when you go to these conferences, there's a level of brainwashing that goes on to fulfill the urban agenda and the high-density development agenda. We're specifically here trying to encourage a certain way of living that's really expensive now. Land is a luxury item in Florida, and especially in Pasco County. So from the comp plan, we want to encourage a more rural style of living when they're already going to pay the highest level of impact fees. They're going to require the less services. Go look at the fire 911 call log. You know what I'm saying? You see where
Yes.
I'm getting at. I don't need to go, we kind of debated this in the other workshop. I'm just saying, if we want to encourage that, and we want to have that type of buyer come into our county, you know, this is one of the ways we can do it, because it's not cheap anymore. It's expensive. And if we want to have executive style housing come in, that's just one way to do it. I mean, there'll be a little bit on Wiregrass and others, but again, it's and those folks aren't choosing to necessarily want to live in the more urban areas of this county.
Right.
So that's my point to this. I don't need
And
a lecture on it.
I don't think that from a planning perspective,
I got Terry.
I'm,
Looking back. All right, Mr. Starkey.
With the East Pasco Rural Protection Ordinance, is it 5 acres that you're supposed to have, or is it 2.5? Or do we have to change those? What is the minimum that we set for out there?
right now in the northeast rural area, according to the comprehensive plan, 1 acre is the minimum rural acreage.
Okay, so 2.5 acres would fit already in the
Yes.
East Pasco Rural. Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna jump in. Hopefully you wanna jump in. Okay. So, and we've talked about executive housing is what we want. If you wanna get business to move here, they got the right places to go. Continually, it's a problem when you only have, 60-foot, 70-foot lots at best, where you're gonna go, between all that stuff. I think that it is more expensive to have the services when you're more rural. However, you brought up a really good point, I thought you'd jump on it again. When they're paying $1 million taxes based on $1 million home compared to one that's 400 or 500, where are you going? there's money coming from that. The demographics are better. The whole attributed to the value of the land gets better and better. The more affluent the people are, it's gonna drive the better service to get your fancy restaurants that you wanna see in here that wanna come in. They gotta be a demographic. You look at Hudson area, when Wesley Chapel was coming out of the ground, Gulfview Mall was cranking. And I talked to a jewelry guy that was there. He said, I do about 70% of my business at the time, it was like 15 years ago, from people from Wesley Chapel. Now that Wesley Chapel's got all their retail, guess what? The mall's not surviving. Now we wonder what we're gonna do with that mall. It's not because it's old, it's just demographics have changed. And I mean, I see CVS's and Walgreens going out of business, guess what's coming in? Dollar Tree. What does that tell you? You want the affluent. I'm comfortable, frankly, to go look, to really put a strong push out there, to go make this discount, go from the 5 acres, not even the 2.5. I don't care if it goes for $1,000, and I don't care where we put it in the county. Because I want to see those better demographics to get things going. I've seen enough of my educational folks out here telling me how great density is. Go to Wesley Chapel, go to Trinity Boulevard, drive around in that traffic and tell me that's what people really want. I'm gonna say I see a completely different world. There's a great hearing we just had at the Planning Commission up on Denton, and people were pushing back about they don't wanna see these small lots coming in, especially when you get larger ones beside it, to go forward. So I think I want to definitely incentivize that forward. And I'm comfortable going down to an acre. Nick?
Mr. Chair, I just want to echo our Chief Assistant County Attorney's position that it is a board discretion item, and that I also want to remind you that I'm seeking a unanimous approval of the proposed fee rate tables. So if you could make sure that I understand what the unanimous consensus of this board is, that will help me make the right presentation in May.
I think we're still in dialogue.
I think,
So-
Yeah, well, I was insulted, so I'm pissed.
So,
I don't need to be insulted up here. I'm about to pack up and leave, because it's the second time today, and I'm not taking it. So, there you
So
go.
my recommendation to you would be to do a 2.5. I recognize that Terry did say an acre is allowed in Northeast Rural, but the comp plan also defines that as a sprawl. So I think 2.5 is a good compromise for now. Because I don't think the comp plan defines that as sprawl. I think the comp plan still defines 2.5 as a rural level of density. That would be my recommendation, is to go to 2.5.
Do you want to keep going, or is that pretty much done?
I'm prepared to continue.
All right, good.
Our proposed rate table, I'm showing you a column for, these are common land uses, and the rates that I'm showing you in this table are in the suburban area in a standard style or type of development. So not a traditional neighborhood development, not a TOD, just a standard form of development. Showing you a column for the current rates that we are charging for these different land uses, and then based on the proposed fee tables, the rate that will become effective on July 1st of this year, and the rate increase that will occur 1 year from now on July 1st of 2027. Again, these fees are proposed to be introduced in 2 equal annual installments, but we will not be able to increase the fees for another 4 years. So the intent would be the fee established in July of 27 would be the fee that remains in place for the following 3 years. Highlights on here, we've talked about the single-family home rate. I did want to highlight the proposed discount in this code amendment for the single-family home by a long-term resident as an owner-builder. You can see that the proposed discount is substantial, recognizing the desire to attract and retain those folks who have resided here in Pasco, grown up here. We want them to make this their long-term home. Multifamily apartments, eliminating any subsidy as per the board's direction in November workshop. We are proposing to take that fee to the amount that the mobility fee study supports and do that over that 2-year period. Small retail goes up a moderate amount. This is one of those in between 25 and 50%. The medium retail, these are the corner shopping centers that tend to locate on your arterial intersections or arterial and collector intersections. These are the real heavy traffic generators, and the fees associated with them reflect the trip-making characteristics and the demand that they put on our road network, so we're proposing those to increase. I want to mention that we are bifurcating restaurants into only 2 categories based on their physical construction. You either have a drive-through and you are oriented towards automotive customers, or you don't have a drive-through and you pay a lot less in mobility fees because you have less of a traffic impact. Very simple way to look at the restaurant. Our neighboring counties have done this. I think it was one of Commissioner Yeager's points in the November workshop was let's make sure that we're implementing things in a simple and consistent way to our neighboring counties, and this was something we borrowed from them, and I think it's a good approach. We talked about convenience stores with gas pumps, recognizing, again, they're driving a lot of the demand, so we're charging them appropriately. And then we are introducing only for this use, the high cube warehouse/distribution, we are introducing a mobility fee for this use where it is currently subsidized at 100% because we are recognizing that these types of uses are not bringing in the high-paying jobs that we're seeking to attract to Pasco County. And frankly, a lot of these uses are using our roadway network as inventory storage for their products. And so we think it's appropriate, and we heard from you in November that it was supportable to introduce a fee on this type of use only while retaining the 100% reduction on traditional industrial uses because of their employment generation. We talked about rate comparisons with our neighboring counties, and I've provided a summary of those same land uses, suburban area, standard form of development, what are we proposing to charge, and then what is Orange County charging, what is Osceola County charging, what is Hillsborough County charging. And I'm intending to demonstrate with this slide that we are right in line with our neighbors. We are appropriately assessing new development for the impacts that they're putting on our system and asking them to pay for those impacts through their fees. Do want to highlight this item. We are proposing to change the boundaries of the benefit districts. We currently have a map that shows 3 benefit districts, west, central, and east, and we are proposing 2 changes to this. First, we're showing the 2 special areas, the connected city and VOPH areas, because the fees and the intention in the code already is to retain the fees generated within those areas for development and infrastructure inside those areas, and we think this map should reflect that. We're also changing the boundary lines between the zones, and we're essentially proposing to use county roadways as the boundary line between zones 1 and 2 and zones 2 and 3, because that's a good way to predict travel shed. It allows for us to say people on the west side of the road are tending to be attracted to one area, and people on the east side are tending to be attracted to another area. And so that's the intent of that map update.
Could you go back to that map?
I can.
So difference from 1 and 2, is that,
So in the
Roads.
current code, the boundary between 1 and 2 follows a power line easement, which really affects travel not at all. And the proposed map follows Shady Hills Road, and then it comes down to Sun Lake Boulevard, follows Rangeland, and then goes down Livingston. So those are the 4 county roads that do a better job of bifurcating travel on a local level.
so Shady Hills Road, if it's on both sides of it, how does it affect the funding?
That means that
On
fees
one side or
generated
the
in
other side?
Zone 1 or Zone 2 could be allocated to a capacity investment on Shady Hills Road.
Okay.
I have a question for the chairman.
Commissioner Whitman.
So Chair, in your district, on the north side of your district, on 52, as you get further up in the Hudson and headed towards Hernando, there's still very similar properties to kind of what's in northeast rural with equestrian and whatnot in there. Would this, with his area and the folks that live that lifestyle, with kind of the northeast rural type that's up in Chair's area, with what he was saying earlier, we could tie in the benefit if there's consensus on the 1 to 2.5 acre or whatever we land on this for people in the Chair's area, if there was.
Remember, you brought down rural to suburban. If Chair's area is already designating suburban, they're already paying those rates.
So the whole equestrian community are paying these rates that's up off of Hayden.
David can weigh in, but if that was the rationale for that exemption, that it was, we were subsidizing those large lot rurals into a more suburban impact or mobility fee rate, it would depend on whether the Chair's area that we're talking about is designated rural or suburban.
It's really anything
That's
more-
accurate. If it was already suburban, it would already be paying suburban rates. If it was rural, then the lot size issue would matter.
would be covered, but it would be covered by that exemption, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but these are not the right maps to discuss that issue. These are the maps where the govern where we spend the money, not how much they pay us.
Okay. All right, so we cover that. That'll be upcoming.
That's a different set of maps.
Will that be upcoming in this presentation?
Well, he's not, I don't think Nick is proposing to change those maps.
Unfortunately, we're answering based on the principle, not based on another slide showing the boundaries.
Okay.
But I just want to echo what both of your attorneys have said. The fee rate that someone pays is based on whether the development is within a suburban designated area or a rural area. The only reason the reduction would apply is if a home was being constructed within the rural area, and then we would defer to lot size to determine whether it was eligible to pay the reduced suburban fee, or it would be obligated to pay the rural fee.
I mean, I'm gonna say just, whether it be rural, suburban, if I get someone who wants to build a project and have 1 acre lots, no matter where it is, I'm comfortable getting them the lower rate, because just, like I said, the density I've seen, we're not keeping up. You know, we talk about growth is never gonna keep up, but if I can get those better demographics for the people with larger properties, with the increased taxes they're gonna generate year to year, no matter what other benefits they bring by having their higher incomes, I'm okay with that type of scenario. Commissioner Oakley?
When you look at the rural area itself at 5 acre lots, if you change that, the reason they pay more is they have more mileage to travel on roads because they're in a rural area to get to the services they're gonna get to. And I was always told by mobility, that's why they paid more, is because it costs more on that, to provide that road, because they're less dense than what a suburban area is. So you got more, in a suburban area, you got more people paying toward that road. In the rural area, you got less people paying for it.
However, part of the money that we get from these people is in the property taxes, we're taking a chunk of that for mobility. You've also got, when these people are driving that much further, every gallon of gas they're using, there's money falling back to us as well. And if there's sales tax benefit, even for penny, you're getting some money back from other things as well. So just, it's not just all one thing or not. There's like, I'm looking at the whole big picture of it. And again, with all the density I've seen, we keep on pushing density, we keep on getting more and more backed up. I don't mind the approach to say, look, I wanna see some larger homes, and maybe you get some different type of developers who aren't gonna compete with the guy who's gonna stick in 40s and 50s and 60s, so let's say 50s, 60s, 70 lots in size now, right? To go compete with that. I mean, that's why we have so many apartment people coming in, because they get so many more lots and units, they can generate more money, they can pay more money for the land, and that's why we got the apartment push coming on us. I don't mind us shifting back a bit to say, I mean, let's give it a run for a few years,
I
see how it
think part of
works.
the problem is that you don't wanna get rural so that they feel like they're paying less, but the fact of it, you don't want it to become dense. The rural way of life in Pasco County and in the northeast with the rural ordinance and all that, you gotta be careful or you'll end up with everything in the rural area looking like suburban. I don't think our citizens want that.
All right, so what
And don't get me wrong,
Hmm?
there's people out there, and there's some projects that I know are coming our way in this rural area that are gonna be 10 acre lots or better, and large homes, $2-3 million homes on those lots. But there's a certain amount of people that want that kind of lifestyle, and they don't want to lessen the density, so it'd be, or make it more density where they're living in town. They don't wanna live in town. They want out and have bigger lots. So you gotta divide it some way. So you don't just do away with rural America being.
I don't think that you guarantee, the assumption that you're going to get $1 million home on a 1 acre piece of ground is not necessarily what I think will end up happening. I mean, at 1 acre, you're at that sort of, as
Oh, yeah, on a
David
1
said,
acre
it's,
lot, yeah.
that's sprawl, that's defined as being sprawl. You're gonna get some large homes, but you're gonna get some small homes too. And, they mobile mobiles would be in a different category, but
But there's,
But I don't necessarily think it equates that if you, by encouraging 1 acre lots, you're going to get higher property value homes. You may, but I just don't want
yeah.
you to make that assumption.
Well, I know,
Because that's not
I know for a fact, there's some projects coming in that are gonna be 10-acre home sites. And the homes are planned to be $2 to $3 million homes. And there's only like 45 in this one project, but that covers over 450 acres. And you're gonna have all these nice homes on that. They don't want the density. They want more room. But not everybody is like that. Just like they, in a suburban area, there's many people that are right up next to people, and the fact of it is, would they rather have an acre lot? Yeah, they'd rather have an acre lot, but there's a cost to that.
So the cost will be, when you're paying your taxes, it's not just on the property, it's not just on the building itself, it's the property too.
Right.
The key is you're gonna minimize the amount of trips that are gonna go because of being a 1 acre lot. Now, when I look at the, upper part of Hudson, do they like to see all these dense units next to their rural stuff? I'm gonna tell you they don't,
Oh, you know they don't.
right? And if you have any doubts, watch the last planning commission meeting we just had. And there's a big push for that, so, and then some of those are in the rural area. Oh, you're pulling it up, good.
We did.
You wanna talk to that a little bit?
I was just gonna mention
Okay.
that we have the
Good.
map on the screen, so now you can know where the rural, the suburban, and the urban area boundaries are in order to determine where someone might be paying a rural fee unless they qualify for the discount, the 5 acre lot discount. So that would only be within area C on this map, the salmon colored portion of the map. So
The
if you were-
boundary between B and C in the Hudson area there, is that Denton Ave there? What's that road going across?
I should know this. Well, so the east-west road, between B and C at the west end, that's State Road 52. But then as you go north and it zigzags,
Yeah,
then
so the one
you're
above
zigzagging
52.
up to
Is that Denton?
Hudson. Yeah, the red line is Hudson.
Hudson, okay.
Yep.
All right, so up in that area, you got some rural that's been there for many, many years. Now there's the influx coming in. Denton Place, I think, was the project that came in. Another place, Summer Chase, came in years ago. So people around there with these giant lots are dealing with these smaller influx. And when we get these 2-lane roads without sidewalks, without other infrastructure around it, it makes it crowded, and it's gonna get even more crowded as it comes. Do I think I'd like to see an incentive for these people to go, even if you're trying to go to a larger lot, like a 70-foot size lot, if I could get you to go to an acre lot, that would take a lot of stress off that whole area. Because otherwise I gotta rebuild, and if I gotta try to go rebuild and try to make those 2-lane roads 4-lane roads, that's gonna be a lot more money. So as much as it's
Yeah.
less impact, the fees we're gonna collect, it's also a lot less road I'm gonna have to build too. That could possibly work with everything else around there.
I think they're all good ideas, it's a matter of where we land to get to unanimous vote. I'm confident we'll land somewhere, it's just a
Yeah.
matter of where. I don't think there's an adversarial in this, Nick, I think we just gotta.
Well, we got a couple of weeks to gel on it,
Yeah.
to think about it, talk about it, and I think the presentation was
So I
good.
think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, this is literally one word in the code, right?
It's one sentence.
Right now it says 5 acres, right?
That's right.
Yeah, pick a number.
It's not changing any of the fee schedules, it's literally one word in the code.
That's correct. This
So
is a text element
So-
in the proposed update.
It's not hard to change 5 acres to something else, but we just need board direction.
Can we make that decision in 2 weeks? If it's just that one.
It's one word, so yes, we could easily make that change.
All right, so anyone else want to add anything else more to the conversation? It's been a good conversation, I appreciate it. Because there were definitely different perspectives, different thoughts, and different ideas about how it all works.
Very good.
All right, thank you, sir.
My last slide was the recommendation slide, which is accept public comment, and reminding you that no action is required today. The second hearing, the adoption hearing, is scheduled for May 5th in Dade City.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else in the audience from the public that would like to speak to this item? Okay, we'll close public comment. Is there anyone online?
There's no one on WebEx and no one has signed up either.
Okay. Okay, David Allen?
Chair, if I may, then, following Mr. Urin's presentation, what we'll do, we'll follow up with each of the board members individually between now and the next reading and get a gauge in terms of where we're at, so that when we come back on May 5th with the updated ordinance, then I'm hoping that we'll be at a place where we get unanimous decision, as Nick had indicated that we need for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got public hearing number P34.
Item P34 was published in the Tampa Bay Times.
That's on. Okay, try that again. Item P34 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 4th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Victoria Ospitos, Planning Development Economic Growth. Item P34 is PDE 260446. This is an ordinance by the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners to amend the Land Development Code, amending section 530.5 parking or storing of recreational vehicles and other sections of the Land Development Code. This recommendation is to continue the item to the May 19, 2026 Board of County Commissioners meeting at 1:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as may be heard in Newport Richey.
Presentation or?
It's a continuance
It's
request.
good to continue.
Okay, sorry. So motion.
Move.
All in favor, say aye.
Move to continue time certain.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item P35.
Item P35 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on February 4th, 2026, and by affidavit of certified mailings and site posting. The item was continued from the March 24th, 2026 BCC meeting to today.
Item P35 is PD 260006. This is an ordinance amending the Pasco County Comprehensive Plan, providing for a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map, map 2-15 and sheet 20 from COM commercial to res 24, residential 24 dwelling units per gross acre, on approximately 4.93 acres of real property located on Grand Via Boulevard, approximately 0.3 mile east of the intersection of Caliente Boulevard and Land O'Lakes Boulevard, providing for additional text amendments as necessary for internal consistency, providing for repeal of severability and effective date. Right before the meeting, the applicant requested a continuance to a date uncertain in order to meet with the community and discuss the allocation of recreational facilities.
Okay. All right. So we have we have a request to continue, but we need to check with the audience in case anyone's here that came here to speak. Is there anyone here in the audience that wanted to speak to item P35 that wants to waive their right to speak at a future meeting? Is there anyone online?
There's no one online.
Okay, we can move for the continuance.
Move to continue.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item P, go to public hearings now. Mr. County Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, there are two rezoning agendas, regular and consent. Staff will present each application to the Board of County Commissioners. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended approval and there is no opposition to the application, will be considered by the board without further presentation. If staff or Planning Commission has recommended denial, or if there is opposition to the application, the applicant will be given 5 minutes for a presentation. The opposition will be given 3 minutes for each individual or 5 minutes for a group representative, and the applicant will be given 3 minutes for rebuttal. Any individual disagreeing with staff or Planning Commission recommendation, or anyone wishing to object to any condition of the rezoning may at this time request that the petition be pulled from the consent agenda, in which case that application will be heard under the regular agenda later on during the meeting. Otherwise, all rezoning applications on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion and vote. If you wish to speak to any petition, please give your name and address and whether or not you've been sworn for the record. These are quasi-judicial hearings. These are quasi-judicial public hearings. The law in Florida is that mere public support or opposition of an application is insufficient for this board to take action. Please limit your comments to those criteria for rezoning found within the board's land development code. Madam Clerk, would you like to swear the public in, please?
I would. If you would please stand, rise up, stand, and raise your right hands if you're going to speak on any of the remaining items. All right. Do you swear or affirm? I see. Go on, raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
So the first item we have is P37. We have approved.
Yes, the P37 was published in Tampa Bay Times on March 4th, 2026, and by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings.
Item P37 is PDE 267895. This is a zoning amendment in the name of Ground Floor Storage LLC / Old Dixie RV Resort MPUD Master Plan Unit Development, which is a rezoning to change from R4 High Density Residential to an MPUD for a 52 RV space resort. The request from the applicant is to continue to a date uncertain.
So is advertised continuance, so I have a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And now, P38, public comment and grant application, Pasco Sheriff's Office, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice.
We rarely see Amy in the afternoon for
I know.
public hearings.
I know,
This is a unique order here.
this might be one of the first of these I've seen, that I can remember.
All right, I'll do publication. Item P38 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 22nd, 2026.
Amy Farrell, Budget Director with the Office of Management and Budget. P38 or OMB 260038 is a grant application and public hearing for the Pasco County Sheriff's Office for an Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program Local Formula. So I ask the board to accept public comment.
Anyone here from the public like to speak to item P38? Saying no one, do we have anyone online?
No one's online.
No one signed up?
And staff recommendation is that the board approve the sheriff's ability to apply for this grant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The motion also should include authorizing the chairman to execute 2 original certifications of assurance attached.
Good with the motion maker?
Okay.
And the second?
Yep.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, so item P39, comprehensive plan amendments, says on consent.
Item P39 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 4th, 2026.
Item P39 is PD 260435. This is a comprehensive plan amendment in the name of CPA 2601, West Market Area ROR Retail Office Residential Future Land Use Density Text Amendment, providing for transmittal of the text amendment to the future land use element appendix section flu A-6. This comes with a recommendation to authorize the transmittal of the proposed comprehensive plan text amendment to the Department of Commerce, Florida Commerce, and other reviewing agencies. And there's a presentation if so desired.
Anyone care for a presentation? Okay, all right, it's a public hearing. Is anyone here to speak in, to comment on item P39? Anyone
No,
online?
no one's online.
Okay, so back to the board.
Move approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item P40.
Item P40 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on March 25th, 2026, and by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings.
Item P40 is PDE 260110. This is a development agreement in the name of Morris Bridge Road and State Road 56, MB 56 LLC, to design, permit, and construct a portion of Morris Bridge Road for cash reimbursement in south central Pasco County, south of the intersection of Morris Bridge Road and State Road 56. This comes here with a recommendation to approve the development agreement and authorize the chairman to execute originals of the agreement and direct board records to distribute as set forth under the distribution section identified in the agenda memo. There's a presentation if so desired.
Okay. Does the board wish for a presentation? No? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is anyone here in the public to speak to item P40? Is anyone online?
No one is online.
Move approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And item P41.
Item P41 was published in the Tampa Bay Times on February 4th, 2026, and by affidavit of certified mailings and site postings. The item was continued from the March 24th, 2026 BCC meeting to today.
This item is PDE 267857. This is a zoning amendment for a substantial modification to the Caliente Resorts MPUD by LOL Properties Incorporated. It's a rezoning request from Master Plan Unit Development to MPUD Master Plan Unit Development to allow for the development 96 condominium units in the Caliente Resorts. Like the comprehensive plan before the public hearing, the applicant requested this item be continued to a date uncertain in order to discuss the recreational facilities within Caliente Resorts.
Okay.
with the
So being
community.
this was advertised, is anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this item? Is there anyone online that wanted to speak to this item?
No one's online.
Okay, so we'll be back to the board to vote on.
To give them time to bear all their thoughts. I'll move to continue.
Could I get a simplified motion? We have a second? Yeah, you're gonna make a second.
Bear in mind.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Go back to committee reports. Commissioner Oakley.
On Saturday, there was a Monarch Butterfly Festival there in Dade City. You see Senator there with Secretary of Ag, Wilton Simpson, and also Jim Shive of the City of Dade City Commission. So, very nice event. A lot of people out, and a lot of people love the beautiful butterflies we get to see every now and then, but it's amazing that a monarch butterfly can travel up to about 3,000 miles. And it does that through several generations of the butterfly itself. In other words, it don't just hatch out of the cocoon and fly 3,000 miles. It actually takes it time over 8 or 10 generations for that butterfly to make it to the south. So there's a lot of work. I guess they're born with the instinct to, when they come, they move on to the south and have this. But it was very well attended. A lot of people there. Absolutely Chamber of Commerce Day in Dade City. Just a great event. But basically, that's all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Waitman.
Good. Couple of policy ideas here I've been chewing on and talking through with Carbala. So based on those, it was good we had the mobility discussion because this goes along with that. As Nick pointed out, we have, houses popping up like mushrooms all over the place. And so there's been some challenges there, especially on the way here, and you travel 52 going east or west, it's bogged down. We've all been stuck in traffic, whether there's construction on collectors, arterials, county roads, there's congestion on even dirt roads going east and west, wherever you go. And as we know, the growth is going to continue to come. People are going to continue to choose to move to Pasco. But we need to come up with a series, in my opinion, a series of good neighbor policies for the existing residents in this town and ensure that the development and the developers are being good neighbors to those who are being impacted and to those who are traveling to get to and from where they go. And so I don't have any recommendations for what those good neighbors policies will be. The county administrator has some level of experience with this, but I think part of it needs to be surrounding MOT. Currently, the county kind of gives a blank stamp on MOT on how long road work can be done. If the work plan says the contractor can get the work done in 30 days, then you don't need to have a 60 or a 90-day permit. They need to get on it, get their work done, open the lane, and be as least disruptive as possible for people to get to and from and where they need to go, pick kids up from schools. So I think that needs to be encompassed into these good neighbor policies. That way it makes traveling around this county a little bit more pleasant as people continue to move here. So I bring that up for folks to chew on, think about, and input on, or the county administrator to opine on his experience with good neighbor policies.
It's a great topic. Commissioner, Ms. Cabral, guys.
Yeah, I just, thank you, Commissioner Waitman, for bringing this up and being a fierce advocate for the citizens on this. I think we've all experienced that in some form or fashion. One of the things that we talked about with the team is how do we become a good neighbor, not just in our own capital projects, and that encompasses all government projects, right, to include FDOT, but also developer projects. And so when we see lane closures or we see requests to do things that are going to disrupt the normal way of life, there's probably ways that we can do better. if you'll indulge me for just a couple minutes, I can ask our two assistant county administrators over infrastructure and development services just to give you a quick idea of some things that we're doing as a first move, but then we'd like to kind of come back with just some more formal actions of what we would like to do. It could incur additional cost on projects as well as development costs, but I think they're minimal when you consider the overall cost of business and commerce within and just delay for the traveling public when we talk about those things. David Branford.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Carbala. You know, on the development services side, we have several initiatives that are in the works that will support this good neighbor policy, and just one quick example that we've seen cropping up as issues within our communities is construction routes. We have not historically defined construction routes, and as we continue to grow and see this development, we are seeing impacts in heavy equipment, trucks, you know, that construction traffic not only impacting the residents within the communities, but also, you know, school, morning peak rush hours and those types of things. So we're taking a look at that more closely. Another thing that we're looking at, and this is just probably broader and kind of stepping away a little bit from the traffic side, is really looking at our buffers between varying land uses and how do we minimize those impacts in terms of what we're approving for growth. And then just real quickly, as we are reviewing the plans, myself, along with Mr. Engel and his staff, have been having conversations with our team about really taking a broader look of these projects beyond just the four corners of the projects, taking a look and seeing what's in the surrounding areas, surrounding communities, and really kind of taking a look and seeing how those communities will fit in with the existing environment and what we could do to minimize those. Mr. Adumo and I have already had conversations on MOT, and that falls under kind of the traffic responsibility, so I'll hand it over to him to expand upon some of the things that we're thinking about from that front as well.
Bradford?
Yes, commissioners, we are taking this very seriously, and I would like to thank you, Commissioner Whitman, for bringing this, making this an awareness issue. We are including this in our written SOPs for our key three departments: Public Works, Transportation Engineering, as well as Utilities. Also, we are looking at possibly having a discussion with purchasing to see if we can include some languages in our agreements and contracts, because honestly, contractors are really not aware or take it as serious as we do to pay attention to the impact of our projects, even if it's a temporary project, on our citizens who are customers. So we are bringing this to the forefront, also training for the team, our teams, for the project managers, project engineers to look out for this, and also as well as our construction engineering inspection consultants who usually manage our projects, and we also manage them, so they are aware. And the key thing is documenting the process involved, where the attention should be. I think you and I had some discussions on one of these issues, that we should be aware, and we should be following up with our contractors. Contractors work for us, and therefore any engagement with our citizens, we must make sure that they are addressing their concerns while they are building the projects.
And these just represent some of the things. These are kind of low-hanging fruit, and we'll come back to the board if it pleases the board to kind of enumerate some of the actions that we've taken. There may be other things that the board wants to look at as well. I'll throw open burning out there as another issue that I see with infill development coming along. That may be something we discuss. I don't know to what level that regulation is possible, but those are I'll take ideas at this point of things that you may see with the public in terms of the inconveniences surrounding the growth and development and infill of areas in our county.
I'll just add in a couple of things too. You know, when you talk about the traffic routes, and you know, these years ago, the Lynx Golf Course, the Estates, we had a thing where we had a route set up where they're going to drive on Buffalo Drive, and somehow we changed the law that allowed staff to go change what the board had voted on. I was waiting to see, and I don't think we had it come back to us yet, to actually take that authority back. Where if the board had made a decision on where a traffic route was gonna be or some development conditions, if it was gonna change, it had to come back before another board to make that decision, rather than internal staff. That led to a lot of heartache that didn't have to happen, but we put ourselves in a position where it couldn't go. Is that something you brought back to us or gonna bring back to us?
I just think we've probably been wiser to not even execute that authority at this point. I'll talk to David about what to do with that specifically, but I think we got the message loud and clear as far as overriding any of that.
Right, but
I
let's
think
say
that was an anomaly, but
And I don't wanna see it going on, let's say 10, 15 years from now, something that was put in, maybe some developments don't come forward, they're gonna come later, and all of a sudden they go back to do it again, then someone else is gonna be burdened with that. So I would like to see that change made in print that puts the authority back here. If you're gonna have a public hearing, that a decision was made in front of people that are sitting here, that they know that if the change is gonna happen again, it's gonna come to another public meeting and have a public discussion before a change is made.
I think David can look at that with the haul routes.
Yeah, and if I may, Chair, you know, another thing that we're looking to implement within the branch too as well is just more utilization of GIS and computer systems and mapping, because in that particular case, which we're both very well aware of,
Right.
you know, decisions were made in the past, and I think the challenges as we have staff turnover, things like that, those records may not have been considered as part of the review. And one of the goals that we want to have is to start capturing decisions, whether it's on MPUD or other zoning changes, so that when the staff does go in and start those reviews, they have a centralized location that they can utilize as a reference and then be able to see those. And then, you know, if there are past requirements for those projects that are carried forward or evaluated appropriately.
So I don't know if I'm still getting what I want. But again, if a board made a decision, I don't want staff to be able to just, I'm gonna make a different decision because I think I want to. But if the board gave that authority up. I want to bring it back.
I think, David, what we just need to do is deconstruct what happened with Buffalo Drive and make sure that whatever mechanism allowed staff at the time to do what they did can't happen again.
Correct.
Bring that back.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know what it is, that's.
there's a way to do what I think the chair is seeking to do. It may be limiting staff's ability to change specific conditions of approval. But my recollection is what the change was, and David can rescue me as I go down this path, is that it was secondary approvals that no longer were gonna come to the board, like preliminaries, is that, or DRC, or back in the day, DRC?
Yeah, it was really the elimination of DRC that caused the issue, because it was actually a DRC imposed condition that was then sort of cemented in place by the board, because the board funded what DRC approved. And then staff basically overrode both DRC and the board. And then it didn't go back to DRC because DRC didn't exist.
But I don't know that the board wants to undertake the volume of approvals that used to go to the DRC. So there should be a happy, what I'm saying is there should be a happy medium to get to where you're concerned and not bring everything forward that.
Right, and I'm not looking to bring everything forward, but what I'm saying is, if something's already been decided, been voted on through a public hearing process, staff should not be overriding that unless it comes back to a public hearing process.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I understand.
Okay. All right. And again, we did the best we could with what we had after that point, but I just want to make sure it doesn't go. And I appreciate this conversation because I've had probably more calls in the past 2 years with new developments, between where they're driving, what they're doing, how they're constructing, times they're getting started, and all those things. I want you guys to have the tools to go pick up the phone to somebody, which may be part of this here, to say, stop construction until you fix this, stop till you start that, and have the authority to do that. I want to give you guys the power to say, you're not doing the way this is supposed to be, you're violating the law, we're gonna put a stop work order until you finish. Because I don't want to hit the thing, well, we can't stop them because we're gonna be liable. I want it clearly laid out as we're doing these things, that they have to follow certain things, certain rules, that if they're gonna violate and disturb the public, then they're gonna wait until it gets resolved without penalty of us being in jeopardy for that. Okay, anything else, Ms. Wakeman?
No, and I talked with DOT about this, also Kelly, Justice Secretary Hall's person, and she agreed about, trying to come up with good neighbor policies and them trying to complement whatever the county does within their projects on their roads. The next, we had Tampa Bay Water Board meeting yesterday, and obviously the big topic is, conserving water. And so we had an update on cooperative funding initiative, and part of that dealt with water-wise. The goal is to save up to 3.8 million gallons per day by 2030 of water being used. And for FY '26, the goal in water saving is 560,000 gallons per day. But the minimum goal is 200,000 gallons per day. And so they went through the type of, the rebate program that the Water Management District has, and they have with their low flows. And there's a chart here, and I'll give this to the administrator. So in 2025, the rebate for low flow toilets and sinks and what have you for multifamily were 13. And in 2026, the completed and projected number of multifamily projects is 21. And it goes down to hotel, commercial, residential, toilets, and then we had, 0 Water Star, which was disappointing to see in 2025. But in 2026, we're projected to see 19 of them. I thought, well, if we want to save water, and we're trying to conserve water as best we can, what if we come up with a policy that requires at least multifamily projects to put in all water-wise utilities within the building? And was brainstorming with Carbala about the idea, more and more multifamily is going to converge on our county. And Chair, you've brought it up in the past, I think you're on Tampa Bay Water, about trying to figure out how to at least get the most efficient use of water from multifamily projects. And so it just, wheels started turning with the drought and trying to save gallons. Low-hanging fruit, I think, is our multifamily product, in either setting a policy or a requirement or a goal that they put maximum efficiency flow toilets and sink heads and what have you. So I just throw that out there. I'll submit this update to Carbala that he can scan in and email to everyone to think about. So I just figured I'd bring it up for discussion. Or residential development in general, I don't know, but we've got to try. More and more people are going to be coming onto the system. We're not going to run out of water. Tampa Bay Water assures us that we have plenty of potable drinking water, but it is going to become more expensive. Water will become more expensive because of the infrastructure cost to move water places. So in order to keep rates down, obviously we need to start thinking about how we're going to do that. So I just open it up for thoughts on that matter, and I'll submit the presentation, and Carbala can mail it out to folks.
Any comments? All right, you can read up on it. Anything else, sir?
I'm done, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Starkey.
Okay, I attended the CSW luncheon. We had another sold-out waiting list event. We did have some men there, so it's not only for the ladies. We had a great speaker whose topic really hit home with some of my friends who were in a friendship blow-up. And I took the book on a girls' trip and set it out for them to read, but no one picked it up. So their friendship blow-up will continue. But anyway, it was a great luncheon, and thank you to everyone who participated. Over the weekend of April 11th and 12th, Starkey Ranch District Park staff with DMO hosted an NSA softball tournament and the Florida Premier Spring Soccer Showcase. We had 30 softball teams and 300 soccer teams participating. It was just, we just got accolades into my office on how great everything went and how nice the fields were. And so I just want to thank the staff for that. We all got this nice letter from Novi about thanking Keith Wiley and Brian Taylor, entire team, for the incredible job they did getting the fields ready They had 312 teams from around the country here in Pasco County. I mean, that's a bunch. And so it went very well, so. Jenny and Katie attended the 1050 home dedication and holiday for Habitat, and went to a single mother and her son. And they said that she actually put more work in than required, so congratulations to them. Look at Senator Hooper's there. So thank you to Habitat. I attended the Goat Kitchen and Bar opening at Saddlebrook, and happy to see them moving on. I don't understand it, but all their palm trees around the pool were dead. I don't know if you noticed that.
Frost.
Oh, the frost, okay. So that wasn't looking so hot.
6 days of cool weather.
I attended the TMA meeting. I wish I still had it, but apparently we threw away the paper. We had a very in-depth discussion about the apportionment that they ended up with. And I wish I had the paper with me, but I don't remember how to do the math. But I think we'll be changing this. There's 25 total MPO board voting seats. And no, there was not a lot of support for the layout because we've always said Pasco, Pinellas together have to equal more than Hillsborough. And the way it's set up, some people think that the airport and the port should be counted as Hillsborough. Both the CEO of the airport and the number 2 guy at the port were there to say, hey, they vote independently, but I think where we've left it is we are asking Hillsborough to give up one of their seats and give it to Pasco, so we have 5. And then Hillsborough County can decide with their remaining seats how they divide it up between the Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa and the airport and the port. There was discussion that they are non-voting, there's discussion that they could rotate a seat, but that it should be part of the Hillsborough allotment. So we had to postpone the vote, and they may be adding another very important TMA meeting over the summer, because we have certain deadlines. And I have invited, and I believe they're coming in the not-too-distant future, Michael from the airport and the port to come up and talk to us as well. Let's see, I have something else here. Fire, well, you brought it up, but I wanted to talk about builders being able to have burn right now. It makes no sense to me, especially if it's windy. We've had 3 scares now in Starkey Ranch District Park. I mean, I wondered if I needed to stand behind my house with the hose. So I don't think they should be allowed to burn right now. If there's a burn ban, why are they exempt? Well, I really want to know why.
I believe those are handled under Division of Forestry rules, but I'm happy to sit with Jeff, his team, fire rescue, and the fire marshal to see if there's a solution we can bring back to the board.
If they're gonna burn, maybe they have to pay to have some of our fire trucks sitting there.
I know we observe some things, and I know we inspect them on a regular basis, so.
Okay. The next thing is, yesterday we had a big meeting on Kogan grass. And David Allen was there, among other staff. So I do want to hear how you ended up, because I had to leave for another meeting. But, and it's because I was contacted by a gentleman who's doing some work for the state on Kogan grass, and he's actually from Pasco County. And so they brought in their LiDAR equipment and their drones, and it was very interesting. In the meantime, he called me, when I was talking to him, he said they were watching the property on Mitchell get cleared with the St. John's property, project, and they were clearing the Kogan grass in an inappropriate way, and they warned them, and they said, we don't care, basically. So I thought we put steps in place that developers and landowners or whomever had to be notified and clear their property correctly before they could start of Kogan grass. But apparently we're not doing that. They said that if a Kogan grass catches on fire and you're standing in a field of Kogan grass, you will burn, because you cannot outrun the spread of a Kogan grass fire. It's like gasoline. So, can you say how the meeting went?
I see Mr. Mickle coming up because I did have to step out, but I think the next steps is to look at a pilot for identifying, the effectiveness of our treatments on Kogan grass, particularly along rights of way. I do want to mention the development services side just real briefly, is because I did have a conversation with Keith and our development review team, and we do have requirements for initial assessments to identify where Kogan grass is within the disturbed areas. And in the case with the Mitchell St. John property, not sure what happened there, but we do have that as part of our Parks, Recreation and Natural Resources assessment of the sites, particularly when they're looking at other environmental factors like the tortoises and delineating where they have those, and they're required to eliminate the Kogan grass.
Okay, then can you let me know what we did on the Kokalakis property at Central Pasco Employment Center that's now clear? Because it was full, 100% full of Kogan grass.
David, I think too, the commissioner points out enforcement. I mean, are we able to, we put the requirements in on the review? Is there an enforcement arm to that, or are we lacking that capability?
No, we would have that enforcement capability through our code compliance then, just similar to like, say, a tree removal that would fall under the same authority.
Have we ever asked a developer to stop because of Kogan grass? To your knowledge?
I am not aware of any.
Yeah, neither, but it's not my world. Okay. I think that's it for me.
County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of items. First and foremost, I wanted to recognize our fleet department. There's an organization of national fleet management professionals. We're the world's largest not-for-profit organization for professionals who manage vehicle fleets. I'm happy to say that our fleet department was recognized as one of the top 100 best fleets in America contests, so for North, Central, and South America. Number 38, actually, I think, on that list. So it just, again, it recognizes the good practices that our fleet department utilizes, our ability to keep costs down and maintain reliability and operational effectiveness in our fleet. The other thing I wanted to mention is on April 24th at 4 p.m., I don't know if this is on your calendars or not, but I would like to invite you to Starkey Wilderness Park for a Tree of Life Memorial Program. In 2025, we lost 16 members, and for various reasons, but to honor their legacy and their memories, we will be holding a memorial ceremony where we'd like to institute a new tradition of having a paver placed in their memory at a county park. And so that'll be at 4 p.m. in Starkey Wilderness Park. It's just a memorial to those.
4 p.m.?
4 p.m. On April 24th. That is Friday. Yes. And that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. County Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I do have stuff today.
Yes, you Is it important?
Maybe. I did want to inform the board that we have been notified that we will be getting a settlement on the PFAS litigation, at least an initial settlement. That's the forever chemical that is infiltrating water supply systems. It's not a whole lot of money, but Tyco and BASF, based on my rough math of looking at, they issued settlement check or settlements for each of the water systems that we had done an analysis of. And so it amounts to about $150,000, which doesn't seem to be a whole lot of money, but.
I don't think you're gonna do much with that.
Yeah, but that's the, multi-district litigation. It's not something that we are in a position to say, no, we're not gonna settle because we can't undertake the litigation, you know, that is ongoing. And so, it is what it is. I believe we have a secondary claim for, the fire facility, which is not covered by this group. And there may be other settlements that are coming down the pike, but there is a small amount of money that is coming in under that litigation. The second thing is, in front of you, I have placed a memo to you all announcing my retirement. I've talked to you individually before this. It just appeared, you know, that, as I said in the first line of the memo, there's never a good time. But after 17 years, I'm thinking it may be the right time now. And I've had, you know, it's been and I'll be here. So my plan is to stay through July 31st. So my retirement would be effective on August 1st. My contract requires a 90-day notice provision, which is what I'm giving you. And I, you know, as far as succession planning goes, Mr. Goldstein has been here longer than I have. After some testing out, well, let's say, I didn't immediately appoint David as my chief assistant when I got here. I made him sweat a little bit. And saw whether we have a working relationship or not. But he's been with the county since 2001. He became my chief assistant 8-10 months after I got here, something like that. And has been my right-hand man during that entire time period. As I've said in the memo and to you privately, I'm not sure that I could have done it without David. There is no, even as a land use attorney that wanted to continue to do land use, it is overwhelming to consider trying to do planning commission and this board on a daily basis and keep 14 lawyers happy and doing their jobs. And so, you know, David has been there for me through this time period. You know, with Live Local, with all of those sort of special projects, in addition to assisting planning and development with their agendas. So I would encourage the Board of County Commissioners to not do a search for their next county attorney, but to hire from within and to, upon my retirement, appoint Mr. Goldstein as your next county attorney.
Well, Jeff, 17 years, you've done a phenomenal job across the board. I want to say that I think David has been, as you say, his expertise, able to get things done, to go through it, has been phenomenal every step of the way. You know, when we had the chance to make the county administrator appointment going forward, it was looking outside when we had like multiple people going. Once it simplified itself, it was really easy to bring Mike in. And I think that continuation has been phenomenal. And I get the same feeling, we get the same results with David. Commissioner Oakley.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. I'm very much in support of David Goldstein to be able to take over after Jeff retires. I did make him promise me that if I was chair again, and I asked him how I would straighten out the meeting to get it going in the right direction, for him not to tell me that he was not chair. Somebody did that to me, which was Jeff. But it was very good. I've never forgotten it. But the fact of it is, Jeff, you've done a great job. I've enjoyed working with you and really appreciate all you've done for Pasco County and the citizens of Pasco County. And I'm very much in full agreement that David Goldstein should be stepping in your footsteps, so, in the future. Okay?
It's not goodbye yet.
No, it's not. I'm just giving a chance to comment, if you'd like to comment.
Well, I will, I know it's not
Who's
goodbye, but
starting?
I'll certainly miss sitting next to you and borrowing your pens and your cords and asking you all my questions and making sure you have your Robert's rules and book rules with you. And I also support David in stepping up in that role.
Nothing else, right? No? Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
All right. Well, Dave, we'll see how it goes, but I think we can probably put an agenda item together if we need it or whenever, but I think it would be a formal conversation for us. And I will support you as well.
I appreciate the board's support, and I got some big shoes to fill. I think I'm up to size 11 now, so I think I'm up to the task, so I appreciate the board's support, and I think it'll be a very smooth transition. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
Nope, that's
Madam
it,
Clerk?
thank you.
I do have one item. Well, congratulations, Jeff, on the decision. That's pretty fantastic. This weekend is Operation Stand Down, and that is a 3-day event to help veterans in Pasco County. The event is fantastic. Community partners come together to provide all sorts of services to our veterans. On Friday, my office participates in Veterans Court, so I just wanted to make that public announcement. So on Friday, it runs from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. So if a veteran has a court case, an old court case, let's say, and they owe a court obligation, and that obligation is in default, and now they don't have a driver's license, we help them get back on their feet through this event through Veterans Court. For instance, last year, we helped 19 veterans waive $45,000 in court obligations and allow them to be able to qualify to get their driver's license back. We partner with the tax collector's office, so Mike Fasano's office is there. So they go from the courtroom at Safety Town, and they walk across the hall, and they go and they get their driver's license. So when they leave, they are ready with their new identification. It's a partnership with the Sixth Judicial Circuit Court, the state attorney, and the public defender, in addition to my office. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the concourse at Rotary Pavilion at Safety Town this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And thank you, Nikki, and tax collector as well, for being so involved with this, because this started out as a small program.
Yeah.
Wasn't even sure what it was years ago, but we started out at Veterans Park, and it's just gotten better and better every year
Remember
for all that you're doing, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll go to my items. Yeah, I've got one picture, I think. That's not it. So I was over to Saddlebrook too with Commissioner Starkey, and I want to tell you, what they did in that bar area was a dramatic improvement. They freshened it up. They have big screen TV, separate location. It's welcoming when you get in there, and the food choices were awesome as well. That's Doug McLean, who's now the Director of Promotions, so I got a picture with Doug, but it was a great event. And that's all I've got for pictures. I do want to talk quickly about the TMA as well, that meeting. What I learned as well was with the airport, let's talk specifically, is they have a representative from the city and a representative from Hillsborough County. So it's pretty strongly represented from electeds. And I brought up the conversation at multiple MPOs, how we should take a look at trying to possibly use that land at Ridge Road on the Turnpike to make it a park and ride. Asked Tony to try to set a meeting up. At one point, Hart was like on the program as well. They were listed there as far as like, this is someone who would be involved with it. And I never got a meeting. And I told him, I says, part of my concern is if you're not going to respond to me as an outside commissioner from a different county, what kind of response do I need for someone who's gonna be on that board? So they said they're gonna meet with us to talk about it, and I'm excited about that. It could be a great benefit for them, and I even said it could even connect to the port, so hopefully we got a voice now that's gonna be heard as opposed to just being let go. But I think they're gonna listen to us better now, which I think will be helpful.
Can I answer?
Yes, go ahead. Sure, sorry.
And I texted these to you, but, well, I have one copy here. Take a look at these percentages. One of the suggestions that we brought up, and it was first voiced by, I think it was the St. Petersburg councilwoman, was that they consider, if they're truly regional, then Pinellas and Pasco County maybe should be represented on their board. And so one of the thoughts was that maybe we rotate one on the port, one on the board. You know, we have to talk to our legislators about that because their makeup is set by Tallahassee. But when they come up here to talk to us, that's something that I think we should bring up, because if they're not funded by the city or the county. So, if they're truly regional, well, their representation is not regional. Unless one of the governor appointments is from Pasco or Pinellas. But right now, all three of their representatives are from Hillsborough County, on both of them, that are governor appointed.
So again, dialogue will go on, but,
It was a good discussion.
it was. All right, as far as, we had a person from Hudson speaking today. She lives a little bit south of Sea Ranch in the Puffin Lane area, Del Mar, right below Sea Ranch, and she talked about all the RVs that are parked in areas that may not. And when we set that up, JP and his team went out there and they went, I think with code, and they checked to make sure that every RV that was out there was from a storm damaged home, which most of them were, but they also made sure that every one of them was hooked up to a system to collect their sewage. So I think we need to go back and do the follow-up to that, go check that out, and then as we go there, I think we should put some type of sticker or something on there that shows a name and a date as far as when it was looked at, when it was inspected, so people in the neighborhood will know that, okay, this is a legitimate thing, as opposed to others that may have just dropped one off, brought one in there, et cetera. So I think that will be a very helpful thing to do in the area. So I'm comfortable with a sweep in that. I will say this, as far as we had a little quick dialogue about sweeps themselves. I want to be, and I'm sure you guys may feel the same way, but I want to hear, if a commissioner wants to see a sweep, or code wants to do a sweep in a commissioner's district, you should get the level of respect, I think, to get a presentation about what we want to do and why we want to go do it. Not just to go out there on their own to just go make it happen. I've got other issues that I've been talking about with homeless going up and down. Fire up on Sea Pines, don't know if it was a camp, but it was a camp that we talked about that is right in that local area. Fire that we had over in Leisure Beach. Camp, homeless camp that was out in that area a few years back, cost us $32,000. I don't know what this last one cost us. But we continually have that problem. We can't rely on outside people to make it happen, but I think it is still the biggest thing I've got. I mean, the other day, I'm driving down, there's a person sleeping right in front of Walmart on the sidewalk. I see them continually, they've gone from even just Beacon Woods and the Walmart, they're out on CVS and Hudson, continually out there sitting in the parking lot with the red sign going in there. It's not good for the businesses that are there either. They deserve some help. Because if you got people that are out there that are being hassled by coming in, you're not gonna wanna go there. If you got people out there charging their phones on, some business's thing, it's gonna hurt that business. We've gotta take care of our businesses too, and not let this stuff go on. I see one continually in front of Wawa's, right on Little Road as you're coming down, sitting right out front. So this is something in my district, the biggest thing I've got is these homeless people that are out disrupting and causing different issues. They're violating the law, which we've had our attorney show us, there's 7 different violations. The lady defecating out there shouldn't be going on, but they go and go. The post office was cleared out very well, but there's still much more to be done. So as far as I'm gonna say with code enforcement and getting things done, I wanna see what the focus of what the people are being bothered by, rather than just having them just kind of decide to go do different things. It takes a lot of resources to do a sweep. It better be coordinated, it better be set up, but if I've got only so much things that are gonna get done, I'm gonna tell you, my people are most concerned with the homeless population, destruction, trash, et cetera, that's being caused. I mean, literally, I'm doing the Great American Cleanup. The presentation was done at Old Dixie Highway in Old Dixie, and while I'm there, The lady who's giving the presentation, who I known from Habitat for Humanity from years ago, she said, don't go by across from the CVS store up on Hudson Avenue. There's a big homeless population, it's dangerous, so don't go up there. Now, if we know they're there, and everybody knows that they're, we need to try to take care of that stuff.
You hear a funny story, Chair?
Commissioner Waitman.
So, in the last week, coming off Aaron Cutoff, going south on 41, gonna go on 54 and 41. Homeless guy had a hammock set up and tied between two power poles. You seen it?
Oh, yeah.
I saw it.
Just chilling,
Yeah.
Yep.
living his greatest life,
Right by the railroad
sun
track.
tanning. And it was like the perfect definition of what we have going on. Had his things, set up hammock, right on right of way. How many thousands of cars go through 54 and 41? And people are seeing that. It's right there in front of Tibbetts.
Yep.
It was a picture that defined the overall problem. And I thought it was pretty bold. But that was a first. That was a first, seeing a hammock tied up between two power poles. And he had sunglasses on, just hanging out.
Something we gotta say on
Moves,
that.
we made a call, and of course they couldn't find him, so he obviously moved on.
Continue, and it's gonna take, as the person said, 9 to 5 doesn't cut it. Because guess when they're gonna go work? And especially summertime's coming now, they're gonna be out from 5 to 8, or 5 to dusk, continually. And I know we gotta protect them, but those are the issues. The weekends, it's gonna keep on going on as well. So somehow, and I've talked about this years ago, when we're bringing the new hires in, we gotta kinda say, you may have to work some weekends if we're gonna have some situations to go forward. And I don't know if we're doing that, but I think it's something that needs to be brought and looked at, and I wanted to bring it out here.
No, that's fine. I mean, so the challenge you have is we have a body of ordinances that require enforcement and of course, limited resources with which to do that. I know typically when we do sweeps, oftentimes they are at requests of community members, folks that are in there that are drawing complaints as well. And so this is a balancing act because I can't necessarily discriminate as to how and where we enforce your ordinances. I get homelessness as a problem, and I know, we've tackled that. Kathy's team and code is intimately involved in that, and so we're gonna continue to press on that. And then these other code violations they're problems, but we do take input from the community as well. So it can be challenging. David and I are actually going to meet and talk a little bit more about this topic, but it's very difficult to be the enforcement arm, but having to enforce here or enforce there. It's tough for code to really figure that out, and so. I get priorities, and I think that that's important. We should have priorities because we have limited resources. And so how you use those resources matters as well. So I want to try to balance that with the board, but at the same time recognize that we can't be discriminatory against that as well.
No, you can't, but, I mean, if someone's got complaints, they file them, et cetera. They can get looked at, right? Every single one of them can be. To go out into a neighborhood, okay, again, that takes a lot of time. The warning, you go back, et cetera, that takes a lot of time to coordinate, and I'm telling you, just the day-to-day stuff, I can't get done, never mind these special projects that want to get done. And now, as we're elected from the people will call us continually, and I'll tell you, when the fires at Leisure Beach are going on, it's a big problem. When you have all the homeless people in front of their businesses, because now people don't want to go in because of that, and it happens for a lot of other businesses I haven't even mentioned yet, but those out there are affecting everything. So for code to go out and decide what they want to go do, when they want to go do it, without even consulting to say, hey, we're going to go do this, there's something wrong. Who's running the operation? It should be the Board of County Commissioners. And I'm telling you, as a commissioner who's got a district, and I've asked for this up and down, give me a code person for up and down 19, take it to Little Road, and let me have one guy just go deal with this one issue. And I can't get that done because they have segmented stuff. It's not right, it's not what the people want. So I'm saying as an elected official, as someone who knows what the problem is with the people, my priority should not be sweeps that they want to go do here and there. Like today was a legitimate one, and I back that. That needs to get done. That's water quality and safety, it's abusing the code. But if someone's not gonna put a complaint in to go to a specific property, that's what it takes. The state said that. The state said if we're gonna put a complaint, someone's gonna put a complaint in, they gotta register themselves to go do it. Now, do I think that's right? No. But if I'm gonna go deal with my big issues, it's people sleeping on the sidewalk, defecating on the sidewalk in the neighborhood, causing that grief. That's a bigger problem to me than doing a sweep in the neighborhood because somebody wants to go do a sweep.
Chair, if I may. Hear you 100%. I think the homelessness, the homelessness piece is a challenge here in Pasco County. And I think that working with Kathy and her team, we're continuing to work on partnerships and those types of things to be able to address that. And certainly we have a lot of work to do there. In regards to the sweep itself, we did get requests from the community members themselves. And certainly we can brief the commissioners whenever we have plans for those sweeps within the communities, just to get a better understanding of, where it's originating from and what the plan is to do those sweeps.
And again, the state said if you want to put a complaint in, put the complaint in. What these people don't want to do is put a complaint in to put their name out there. And I respect that. But let them go work with the state that we can do these things where they can just go out there. That's where the law needs to change, not to go without talking to a commissioner what's going on in this district. Because I'm gonna tell you, I get it all the time where the biggest problems are. So just because you got a loud person that may want to talk to you about they want to sweep out there, it's not the way it should work.
I think we have to be careful, though, on allowing commissioners to make the call. The threat is, staff will come in and let you know we're gonna do a sweep and then feel the pressure to call off a sweep. We need to be careful there with that.
That's why we discuss it ahead of time. Let's go find out what's a priority in the community. And I'm gonna tell you right now, let's go have that conversation. Maybe set another meeting up, and let's go see where the code enforcement officers are, and let's go look at where the biggest problems I face are, because they're not getting handled. In code enforcement violations are code enforcement violations. And I can tell you where they are, and just give us a list of all these violations for all these camps. They are true violations, just like the other ones.
So I do think that there's probably room in, if I look at the county as a giant house, I guess, if you will, each district is a room of that house. We've got areas, we've got things that are problems in various districts. But we've also got corridors and things that are commonalities. Is there room to have discussion with the board on, again, it becomes areas of focus. Got it. We have homelessness in some of the areas in your district, Commissioner. But there's also neighborhoods and maybe there's other areas that we should look at with code and Denise, David, I don't know if there's room to have discussion on that, because again, the major issue that we have with code is we can't just be discriminating on how we enforce, and that's a problem. It can be a problem. That can get us into legal trouble too, because now we're picking and choosing, and we have to be careful about that.
Commissioner Starkey.
I would love for the code enforcement head to come up. But it's my understanding that I don't want to speak for you and how you operate, but it's my understanding that when we're doing a sweep, it's because there's been a lot of calls in a certain area. And that's what generates a sweep, which is a much more efficient use of our code enforcement time. Because when they get called to one specific instance, and then they can only look at a 360 radius of what they're touching to see if they see any other violations. So sweeps, they don't do them very often. I wish they'd do them more often, but I believe it's a very efficient use of the code enforcement time. I have worked very hard to clean up Holiday in that area. We don't have as much homeless as we used to. I think we still have code violations, but going on, but we have certainly cleaned up the area, and I am very grateful to code for going in there and working with me and helping keep up people's property values. And people don't want to live next door to someone who has moved trailers onto their property and opened up businesses illegally, like it's happening up in some other districts, or homes that weren't they built all kinds of stuff on their property that's not legal, but there's no code enforcement looking at it. I showed you the picture of someone who put a sign up next to Hudson High School that said, park your boats and RVs and all your stuff here in a residential community. So I think they do a great job. I wish that the code enforcements complaints were anonymous. But I think it's a good use of time to do this week, so.
Denise Anderson, Director of Code Compliance. So when it comes to conducting sweeps, there are really two ways in which sweeps come onto our radar. And one is officer-driven. They'll identify an area where they believe there is criteria that we evaluate that is really kind of in need of a sweep for a defined geographic area. And so an officer-initiated request, and then, of course, from the public. And so regardless of how that request comes to us, we go out and evaluate the area. We identify the geography in which we believe a code sweep is warranted. We implemented new protocols last year. We're working with media relations and with Public Works. So we go out and get a variable message board or two, whatever we can get our hands on, and attempt to place those in a public area 10 days in advance, or typically over the period of 2 weekends, where the neighborhood has an opportunity to look around themselves and self-identify issues that may be addressed in a code sweep. We find that to be very effective, notifying them in advance that all code identified issues will be addressed during the sweep, and we give them the date on which that sweep will occur. Media relations also sends out via social media, targeted usually through Nextdoor, to that neighborhood to let them know as well that will be coming through. And we do notify the commission office prior to that sweep being conducted. And so we have done those for the last year. That has been our protocol. There have been some limited exceptions where we haven't used the variable message board because it's a smaller area, and we've gone out and door to door notified the neighborhood that will be coming through on a specific date. But typically, there's two forms of communication that we have with the community that will be coming through.
And I'll say, years ago, we had the head of code enforcement, east and west representatives. I got much better service talking to those people. They would go with me. We'd go talk to neighbors, et cetera. They would tell me what they wanted to do. We'd come up with ideas to solve things. When we put the panhandling things in place, we worked with it together. And I'm telling you now, I continually see the same things over and over again. I've sent pictures, I've sent details, and my people tell me, their elected official, that they're not happy with the homeless situation. They're not happy to have a big camp that caused a fire a couple of years ago that's still there. They're not happy with the one that we set up in Hudson by Sea Pines. Don't know if that was caused by them, but a homeless camp that's right there causes another fire. I don't need to have my people in jeopardy. They don't need to be in worry about what's going to go on in their area. We cleaned up Leisure Beach, did a great job down there. But literally, those spots are out there, they're known, and they haven't been acted on. And I'm going to tell you continually, you can keep everybody 9 to 5, but if you're not even taking care of what's going on during 9 to 5, it's going to get worse and worse, and it keeps on getting that way. And literally, I should not have to see people in my district defecating out there, nor should the people. They should be laying on the side of the streets. It's happening all the time up and down 19. And I'm going to say, the way you have the district set up, I'd be happy to sit down with you guys again to go look at what we can do to change what's going on, because the representation my people tell me when I go talk to them is they're not getting the service they want. So you may think you're doing a good job with all your notification, et cetera. I'm telling you, my people aren't happy.
Well, I think that's with the sweeps piece, and forgive
That was
me,
the
Denise,
sweeps.
That was the
As a-
sweeps, but on the homeless piece, I think on the homeless piece, Commissioner, I hear what you're saying, because it's not a 9 to 5 issue, right? We've discussed panhandling. It'll happen at 7 p.m. or during rush hour traffic, and we'll sit down and try to figure out what the resource loading needs to be, if that's something that we need to do in conjunction with Kathy's team to address this, because you're right. I see it on the weekends, even in my own neighborhood. So the problem is spurring out. And so that could be a resource dependent issue, in which case we'll come back to the board and talk to about it. And if it's a priority, it's part of our strategic plan. So I'm good with having those discussions to put more resources into that if those extended hours are are required. I mean, Denise, anything to add? And
I
with
would,
Chief?
I would add, but as it relates to panhandling specifically, we do not have the legal authority to detain an individual or a driver. And so the responsibility for panhandling really does fall on our law enforcement agencies, not our code enforcement agencies, and we provide support to those agencies. Similarly, when as it relates to homeless encampments, we cannot just enter property without a trespass agreement. There are certain limited circumstances with vacant, unimproved property where we may be able to enter. But those are very, very limited. And so that requires, and we do coordinate with the sheriff's office to gain entry if a trespass agreement is on site. Again, we cannot enter that property without the escort of a sheriff's deputy. So it is a very complex issue. It's one I'm very, very familiar with because of 12 years' experience navigating that with the city of Clearwater. But the authority does not lie within code compliance. We enforce on the land development code and homelessness, homeless encampments. As it relates to the land development code, it's strictly trash and junk and permitted use violations. And so I cannot go on and remove. Assistant County Administrator Kathy Pearson described how we're utilizing our homeless initiative under James Walters to coordinate with partner agencies, and we're a part of that. And so I think as that outreach effort grows with partner agencies, and of course funding is always a challenge, those efforts will expand and grow and be more successful. And we're working with James on a campaign for panhandling to really encourage people to invest, to not give that money out the window, but rather give it to an organization that will take those funds, not take an administrative fee from that, I believe is the plan, and to invest that with organizations that are providing direct services. So panhandling for the driver on the street, or those that are faced with those that are being solicited, they either give out of fear or out of a sense of dopamine hit, they're doing something good. We'd like to take that and redirect those funds to organizations that actually can do good. Take the incentive away, if you will, for those that are panhandling, because they won't be successful. That's the goal. And so James and I are working with Media Relations and Communications to develop that program. And the fiduciary agent is United Way that will be handling it. I'm sure James will brief you further at an appropriate time.
Commissioner Waitman had his hand up first.
Mr. Walters is still a duly sworn, licensed law enforcement officer, correct?
That's my
He just doesn't carry normal law enforcement tools on his hip.
I believe that's correct.
He has the ability to do more than a code enforcement officer, correct?
I mean, I believe he's still sworn, and I believe the sheriff does hold his LE cert, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you
But we'd
understand
have to
the point
verify.
here.
Yeah, I understand.
We have the tools, we can develop the tools, we put the tools to work when it's necessary. And hearing some of the graphic details from the customer today and what Commissioner Mariano deals with, I mean, we've seen similar things on State Road 52, person on all fours at front of 4G Ranch, all fours, pants down, defecating, middle of the day. On 52, Brian Holmes and I on our way west. It's everywhere. If code enforcement can't handle it, there's the ability to handle it. We have someone on staff who can, if given the opportunity, to enforce this public health hazard, which is what it is, and a safety hazard to the tax-paying public that are working their butts off in this tough economy, in this expensive environment that we're in, to make a life here. And we have ne'er-do-wells coming in, destroying it, wasting the sheriff's office time, wasting code enforcement's time, who can't do anything. As code enforcement spinning their tail, it's time to double down. Time to double down. And play hardball with this and eradicate it. There's no right answer. It's tough. You're gonna have people who are upset on each side of the pendulum, but our obligation is to the taxpayer, and to provide for them and give them a good life. I said we triage the situation with the folks who are doing these things, triage them, clean it up,
give them a shower, ship them to their next of kin. It's a familiar problem. It's not our taxpayers' problem. The long-term problem needs to go to their family, and it's not the obligation, the burden of this board's budget, and the taxpayer who funds this budget every single day to take care of these people. It's a waste of time starting fires with the fire department. I can tell you, when I worked in the garbage business, we did dozens and dozens and dozens of these cleanups and donated tens of thousands of dollars for cleanups. We put dumpsters on site for these folks to use. They didn't use them. Right next to them in their camp. What they would do, they would set the dumpsters on fire, or they would float them out into the Gulf because they're so hot. Sorry, Madam Clerk. And then the company who donated that asset has to pay tens of thousands of dollars for a barge to go get it back, get their equipment back, trying to help the problem. These people don't want help. Government can't be superhero, can't be all things to all people. We do the best we can, round them up, clean them up, and figure out and put them on their way. Because it's just going to be a distraction and a strain on the resources, and resources are limited. Our sheriff's office's resource, our code enforcement officer's resources, this board's resources. So, Chairman, I agree with you. Let's lay the hammer down and really address the problem, rip the Band-Aid off, quit playing patty cake with it, and just be bold. Just be bold and start cleaning up. That's the expectation of every citizen across this county, from the swamp to the coast. It's the same sentiment. The homeless problem east of 41 is greater than it's ever been. Commissioner Oakley and I are lifetime generational residents of East Pasco County, and we've never seen the level of homelessness that we have. In the city of Dade City, when we go to work, they're getting pennies out of the fountain. They're defecating around the bushes of the historic courthouse. It's a beautiful place for the public to come. They charge their phones. There's enabling going on all over when there's internet and whatnot in the parks. However, they're getting their phones and they're charging their things and they're laying on park benches. It's horrible. It hurts our businesses. It discourages patrons from coming in to buying product from people. I have no love for this cohort. Their intentions aren't good. The enabling needs to stop. So I'm done.
Thanks. Mr. Starkey.
I am curious if the homeless camp by Green Key is gone, because we have had people come in here many times talk about that one. And we had that homeless camp on US 19 in my district, right there on US 19 entering Pasco County. Tens of thousands of people passing it every day. And our staff couldn't do anything because the garbage only went up to the sidewalk and the tents were on private property. And we had to subpoena someone in Texas before we could go on there and evict them and clean them up. But it took us almost a year to clean up that homeless camp that did not, there was no trees hiding these people. They were right there living there. But we did get it cleaned up, and we forced that gentleman to sell, and someone else bought it, and there's a fence around that property now. We don't have that homeless problem there anymore. So I want to know if that one that's on private property in his district is gone, and can we use the same tools that we used to get rid of it in my district there?
Still there.
That's not okay. That's not okay. What's going on there?
So Kathy Pearson, Assistant County Administrator, Public Services. I am proud to say that James Walters partnered with Chief Gwynn in the fire. These have made 2 visits in the last 4 or 5 days out to Green Key. There were no homeless, but there were signs of it. So 2 trips already. This is with partnering with Chief Gwynn
But
because they got this
new
new.
property, right?
I believe this was the property that, I'm not positive. This was the property that Chief Gwynn have gotten a whole bunch of, maybe Joanne,
But
do you
who
know?
owns the property?
They got new state equipment and they were going to test it
Strike the
out.
hell out of that guy. Until he has to give up his property. He can't have a homeless camp. Can't we go after the landowner?
The answer is complicated. If they have, I mean, if.
We need to change the law if we can't go after the homeowner.
Cleaned it up just this week.
I know, but if it happens over and over again, it's a lot of resources that we're putting out that we shouldn't have to.
They set up a station there.
Just made it
You
my
can't, Colleen,
Sorry, Kathy.
sorry. Colleen Weaver, I'm with Commissioner Jack Mariano's office. They did clear that out. Actually, I sent pictures to Gina yesterday, and they're setting up a station there, and they will be there on all week for the next several weeks, just to ensure that green key. And the reason I know is Wanda Chasnoff from that neighborhood that backs up onto that property called and let me know.
So they blocked it?
It's the first time. She was thrilled. I had encouraged her to come this morning to tell the board thank you for the hard work on that Green Key property, but that is private property.
Who paid for this cleanup?
That I do not know.
If this is what I believe it is, Commissioner, this is a training exercise by our special fire rescue. We received an equipment grant from the state for heavy rescue, and our public works team is training our fire rescue staff on the use and management of that
So you
equipment.
got permission from the landowner to do that?
Presumably,
Okay,
yes.
but I think that landowner, what do you guys think, needs to be on the hook if someone moves back on his property? He either has to fence it or sell it. Sell it to us, give it to, or we take it, eventually. I think that's what we were doing with the property 19. We were taking that gentleman to court.
I'll work with Jason and Branford, because we looked at this before about using for a stormwater area, because, that area floods like crazy. They're willing to sell it. We didn't want to pay the money, but I'll bring that back up, and I'll bring, Branford, maybe let's bring an agenda item back up to the board with a full description, and see what the board wants to
But
do with
he
it.
can get fined per day for running a homeless camp on his property. and
Okay,
we
so-
should be-
No, he
No?
can't get fined for running a homeless camp.
Okay, what
Because
is it?
there are violations of the code that a homeless camp triggers,
Yes.
but it's
can
a
add up.
violation of your land development code. It's not,
Okay.
your code does not make homelessness illegal.
Okay, but the result is that they have to do something. Is
So
that-
they have been working with us to go through this. As a matter of fact, they gave us, I think, everything we needed for paperwork. They gave us permission to go in there and clear it out so that the homeless can't hide in the woods. This is gonna clear it all out, so all that brush, Brazilian peppers go away, all the trash gets cleaned up, and our team is getting experience, which they need for the machine they're breaking down. This could be replicated elsewhere as well, and I got another place for them too. But literally, if you look at the trash that's on the ground, like the lower scene right there, try to imagine, let's say now a hurricane comes in, storm comes in. Where's that all that plastic gonna go? So this type of thing, it's why I'm saying, I've got so many of these things in my district to get them done, to get done. So
I got one on our property.
now that we know that Mr. Walters is a sworn loan officer, the reason of we can't do it because we have to coordinate with the sheriff is now bunk. Now we have what
I'm
we
not
know is authority.
necessarily sure that's.
Well, if it is true, we now have something to work with.
Yeah, we'll report back on that status and how that can be leveraged.
I appreciate it. All right, anything else for the good of the board? All right, thank you all, we're adjourned. I understand. I'm looking at the assets. I'm looking at the assets. A few more to go, a few more months to go.